Porsche Cayman was introduced in the mid-2000s and was essentially a hardtop version of the Boxster. It served as the entry-level mid-engine sports car of the entire Porsche lineup. Now, today, I am driving this 2015 Cayman S. It is of the 981 generation. The engine is a naturally aspirated 3.4-liter flat six that it shares with the base 911 Carrera vehicles. In this car, it's tuned down a little bit to make 325 horsepower and 272 pound-feet of torque. This car here is equipped with Porsche's legendary PDK dual-clutch transmission, rear-wheel drive only. And a curb weight of just right around 3,000 pounds is amazing, especially as the 911s have gotten larger and larger with each generation. This Cayman still is relatively smaller and it feels a lot more compact, and you can definitely feel that lighter curb weight when you're driving it. 0 to 60 will happen in 4.2 seconds, quarter mile in 12.6, so it's a quick vehicle. I recently drove a base Cayman with the smaller 2.7-liter engine and was really impressed with how it felt with the chassis, the transmission. Everything about that car felt great. It just felt lacking horsepower, and this is solved all with this Cayman S. That 3.4 makes a bit more power, so let's see how it feels. This car is from the 981 generation, and among all the generations of Boxsters and Caymans, I think this is my favorite from an exterior appearance perspective. It definitely looks like a part of the Porsche family with similar styling cues, but it also looks different enough that it doesn't look like just a baby 911. The interior of the Cayman is typical Porsche. Very, very familiar if you've been in any of these vehicles. The same buttons, the center dials, everything, the font, the displays are all identical. Again, a big complaint I always have with the interiors of these Porsches is why are there so many buttons for everything? It's just a mess, and it's kind of overwhelming at times. But regardless of that, it feels very comfortable. These seats are great. Materials are nice. Everything feels like it's built very well. Visibility is great. The two trunk setup with the Cayman makes it extremely practical. You got a good trunk back there and then a really deep one in the front there. Overall, I mean, it's a great place to be. It does not feel cramped or claustrophobic whatsoever, and the interior is all set up in a way it feels like you're wearing the car. So how does this thing drive? The first impression is, I love that flat six. It sounds great with the Sport exhaust in Sport Plus mode, with this PDK ripping off instantaneous downshifts and upshifts. Holy crap, it's great. It feels a lot better than the base Cayman. I think this is definitely worth the extra horsepower for the extra money. And then you get the overwhelming feel that this chassis is just set up so well. A mid-engine vehicle is intrinsically a better setup than a rear-engine 911 from a physics standpoint. And you almost get the feeling that Porsche is purposefully holding this car down. Like, for example, why does this car get a detune? Why can't it make the same horsepower as a Carrera? Because obviously the 911 is that's the standard Porsche sports car, and the Cayman has to be the baby one. But it kind of sucks they're holding it down, because this chassis is so great. This car also has electric steering, which some people might complain about, but if this is how they are, I don't care. I'm happy with it. The feel of it, the response and the communication from the steering wheel is great. This car just is nimble. You really do feel that low curb weight, and it just feels alive and ready to play around. And also the size, again, 911s are getting quite big. Yes, obviously the power, the technology is keeping up with it to make them handle great, do amazing things, but weight is always an enemy of being a well-handling vehicle, and this thing definitely feels lighter and more nimble and more fun to drive. If we talk about value, the Cayman S base price when new was right around $65,000, but Porsche being Porsche and their options, you can easily sticker them into the mid-80s, upper 80s to $90,000. This car sticker for right around $88,000, which means it's really well optioned. And I mean, just Porsche options are kind of crazy. Just go play with the configurator. The other day I was optioning up a Panamera 4S for fun and managed to put $68,000 on a Panamera 4S, 68 grand in options. So, I mean, these are used now, so that's the great thing. You can get a pretty clean Cayman S of 2015, 2016, this generation car, for around 50s, upper 50s, $60,000 for a pretty clean one, and that serves as a decent value. The big problem I see is that latest generations of Camaros and Mustangs and Corvettes are just jumping so far ahead in terms of the performance they offer, the value, the refinement has become really great. So now it's hard to justify this if you're just looking at it from a performance thing. Those cars can do everything that this Cayman can do for a lot less money. But what you are paying for is part of the badge, the mid-engine, the refinement, the engineering that comes with it being a Porsche Cayman. If I were to compare this from a value standpoint to a used 911 of lower caliber, maybe a little older one for this money, I think I'd rather have this Cayman S. It truly is such a great vehicle, and it just feels so rewarding to drive that I think I'd rather have a newer Cayman S versus an older 997 or something like that. In summary, the Cayman S is definitely not the cheapest way to achieve this kind of performance, but it might be one of the most rewarding. As other vehicles are steadily jumping forward in what they can do, it gets harder to justify this. But again, Porsche is a Porsche. There's a reason why there are purists out there who love these vehicles. Every time you drive one, you really, really do understand what they are. I really, really like one, and especially this generation, the last of the flat sixes. They probably won't ever do one again. A naturally aspirated 3.4 liter that revs to over 7,000 RPM. I mean, the new 718s is a turbocharged 4-cylinder. It might be a little bit faster, but it definitely won't feel as engaging as this. The Cayman S, I'm very impressed with it, and I think it would be a very, very good option for the money.